I had one other thing, and then we're going to get into what a lot of people, basically the main event, the main subject. If you can look at the thumbnail again with the Hex conference just taking place the other day, Pulse Chain. Is there news? Isn't there news? What did Richard Hart sound like? We're going to get to that in a moment. But yeah, just back on this sentiment bottom thing that I keep looking at. It even Forbes the other day posted an article about this carbon tax issue and Bitcoin basically not only being dead and going to zero, but going negative. This like Bitcoin going negative idea, not
I saw
just
that.
them. Now, Forbes is one thing that's a pretty big deal. I mean, like that's a huge publication that I don't know how many people take too seriously anymore. Like a lot of our legacy media, but especially when they're posting articles like that. But that, in addition to I admittedly had never heard of him, but Joe Rogan last week had on a geopolitical analyst, Peter Zion, who it was a very interesting episode. Really smart guy. Go check it out. It was like number 1921 or something, just sometime last week. But a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of Ukraine, Russia talk. A lot of China talk. It was geopolitical issues, and a lot of stuff that I don't know anything about. And it was interesting to hear his thoughts. But then at the end of the interview, Rogan brought up crypto, and they had about a 5-minute conversation. And this guy, same thing as this Forbes article, just kind of parroting the same stuff. It's never had it. Bitcoin's never had any value. There's no intrinsic value. It's going to zero. And he literally said the quote, well, what is it? It's at 16K right now at that moment. Well, we got about 17K more to go because it's going to go negative and the carbon tax and all this stuff. So what do you make of this? I know you know a little bit more, I think, about the carbon tax issue than I do, but I don't know. How do you explain all this?
What he's saying is the value of the coin will be a certain amount, and then after you pay your carbon tax for mining it, it will put the value essentially negative, which will never happen. They'll stop mining it before that happens.
Right. Yeah.
Or you'll have such low hash power that it's going to be probably catastrophic to Bitcoin and the proof of work. It could get pretty dangerous. Now, Richard Hart has always called it kind of security theater anyway, because the miners are essentially protecting themselves from themselves. Miners are really the only ones that can change the code or do any kind of, fork of any kind. The miners have to be in on it. So if there's not a whole lot of hash power or hash rate happening, then it could get dangerous and people could fork different things and, it would get ugly. I don't see that happening. I just think this guy read an article and that's probably the last thing he read and just repeated it. But, the more people that say crypto's going to zero, the more I like it because, that's another sign of getting close to the bottom. I haven't heard enough of that yet. Hence why I still think we're going down further. You're starting to hear it. You're starting to hear those people that are saying it's garbage. It's going to zero. Everything's going to zero. It's not worth anything. We need more of that. So there's one or two.
A couple big ones too. I mean, the biggest podcast in the world and Forbes magazine. So it's definitely getting there. It's becoming interesting. It's just the thing that I kept finding nonsensical about his argument was, it has no value. It's not a store of value. Well, I mean, that if one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time. So, if there's a market, there's a market. It doesn't really matter what your opinion is, right?
Well, and that's the thing. The price is all about belief in something, right? Same with the US dollar. There's nothing backing the US dollar besides belief that piece of paper is a dollar. That's all it is. So there's the same theory behind it, and we'll see how it plays out, but it's not going to zero. There's enough,
I am with you.
Said, there's enough people that believe that it has value and will continue to grow as these markets continue and more people get into them. There's so few people in crypto right now that it's going to change.